All right. Shalom, everyone. Okay, so we're going to begin tonight, and we want to welcome all of you that are on live stream, as well as, well, I point that way because that's where the live stream desk is. Actually, I'm pointing this way. That's where the cameras are. But all of you on the live stream, okay, we just had a nice, oneg, a nice meal together. It was very good, yes. And we have eaten, and we are very satisfied, but we've already prayed after the meal. And so we're going to start off tonight with a Rosh Chodesh service before we do our normal Tuesday night Torah study, because it is Rosh Chodesh Harivi'i, the fourth month, and that was today. Today is the first, and so we want to get this in before sundown. We got a little time because sundown's not till at least 9 o'clock or so. So we're going to do that first, and then afterwards we're going to have our normal Torah study. So if you're online and you're here for the Torah study, you get an extra bonus. Now, the Rosh Chodesh service isn't very long. It's probably not even 15 minutes. But we're going to do this first, and then we'll go into the study. So, just so we have this all worked out, so we've got Manny and Rob on the live stream desk. I'm sure Kurt's on there as well. Okay, so we've got your leadership in the live stream, so please give them your respect there for their authority in the room. We want everything to be done in order and peacefully as we come together to study the Word and also to celebrate Rosh Chodesh. Okay, Rosh Chodesh is the Hebrew for the new month or the new moon, okay? All right, so the Rosh Chodesh service is screen-driven, which means that you guys are going to watch on the screen here and on live stream. You'll see it on the live stream, and it's going to be just a bunch of stuff we're going to all read together as we acknowledge the changing of time and follow the cycle of time through the movements of the moon, the cycles of the moon. Okay, and this is how we keep track of time for the holy days. So we know what month it is or what moon it is. We know which holy days are coming up next or which ones are coming soon. Okay? So this is Rosh Chodesh Harivi'i. We'll begin with the sounding of the silver trumpet. If you'll all rise for the sounding of the trumpet. Amen, amen. Okay, together. Yahweh sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Yahweh, open my lips that my mouth declare your praise. May the expressions of my mouth and the thoughts of my heart find favor before you, Yahweh, my rock and my redeemer. From Numbers chapter 10 and verse 10. Also in the day of your gladness and in your appointed times, and in the beginning of your months, you shall blow with the trumpets over your burnt offerings and over the sacrifices of your peace offerings, that they may be to you for a memorial before your Elohim. I am Yahweh, your Elohim. Kedushat Levanah, together. O Yahweh, our Elohim, and Elohim of our fathers, make this coming month one of good and blessing. Grant us long life, a life of peace, of good, of blessing, of sustenance, of vigor. A life marked by a reverence for you and a dread of sin. A life free from shame and reproach. A life of prosperity and honor. A life in which the love of the living Torah and the fear of Elohim animates us. A life in which our heartfelt desires are fulfilled for good. In the name of Yeshua HaMashiach. Amen. Amen. He who performed miracles for our fathers and liberated them from slavery to freedom, may he quickly liberate us and gather our exiles from the four corners of the earth. And let us say, Amen. All right. The new moon of the month of Harivi'i, the fourth month, is today. May it prove to be good and fruitful for all 12 tribes of Yisrael. May the set-apart one, blessed be he, grant this Rosh Chodesh to us and to all his people, for life and peace, for gladness and joy, for deliverance and consolation. And let us say, Amen. Together. Blessed, praised, glorified, honored, and exalted be the name of the King of Kings, the set-apart one, blessed be he, who is the first and the last, and beside him there is no Elohim. Extol him in the heavens, Yahweh is his name. Rejoice before his face, his name is honored beyond all blessing and praise. Blessed be his name, whose glorious kingdom is forever. Let the name of Yahweh be blessed forever and ever. Amen. From Isaiah 66, verses 22 and 23. For as the new heavens and the new earth that I make stand before me, declares Yahweh, so your seed and your name shall stand. And it shall be that from Rosh Chodesh to Rosh Chodesh, and from Shabbat to Shabbat, all flesh shall come to worship before me, declares Yahweh. Amen. Amen. You may be seated. See, I told you, there's only about 6 minutes there. And don't be concerned about that whole blowing the trumpets over the burnt offerings. The food was very good and nothing was a burnt offering. It was fine. Some of you may be thinking, but Rabbi, aren't we supposed to have 2 silver trumpets? Yes, but you're also supposed to have a Kohen to do it. And so we don't have either of those actually this time, but at least you have, the silver trumpet being sounded. Okay. So I normally would go into a whole lot more about Rosh Chodesh. We're not going to have time for that tonight. We're going to go into the Torah study. What I will say is this. I want to encourage all of us to do what I encourage you every time we go through a new month or a new moon, celebration, Rosh Chodesh celebration, is that use the marking of time as an opportunity to look back and see how far you've come and where you've been, so that you can then make the necessary adjustments to continue on the journey forward as you plan for the kingdom and you change and transform into the image of Yeshua. Amen? Amen. All right, so these are all those moments for thinking of turning the page and being in a new beginning, okay? And so here we are as one of those moments that, at least metaphorically, is like a new start. And I don't know about you, but all of us, we should have our moments where we certainly could use a fresh start, okay? So we have these moments on a regular enough basis, so it's good. All right, Torah study. Okay, so what we're going to do for those of you that are online that are new, the way our Torah study format works is we're going to take up some prayer needs here within the congregation. It's always been my belief that when, a bunch of people will get together, in seeking the Father, that we should take an opportunity also to find out what needs there are amongst the body. We have instruction from Messiah that, when you know your brother's in need of food, that you should feed them. If they're thirsty, give them drink, etc. Well, you're not going to know unless you ask and find out how they are and what they might need. So we share in a prayer time, what concerns we have. We also share our praises. And so I want to start off with praises and prayer time here as we do each study. If you have one locally here, you can come up to the mic. Okay, Steve? Yeah, okay. Just try not to twist the mic without unscrewing the knob there. Okay. We're going to have a bunch of mic stands that don't work anymore. Okay, that's fine. So just go ahead and raise your hand. I'll call you up to the mic. And my first prayer is that we don't destroy the mic stands while we're adjusting the mic. Okay. But if you have a prayer or praise, you can raise your hand. I'll call you up. If you're online, go ahead and type them in. And we got Rob and Manny manning the desk there. And they'll go ahead and... I've got a praise. Manny's sitting back there at the desk. The man's been through a lot, and he still came right in today, and he's sitting at the back desk there. A fantastic job. Praise Yah. We're very excited to have you back there. Okay. Let's see. Anybody here have a praise or prayer? Okay. Caitlin? I especially like to look on your mother's face as you came up. Go ahead.
I just want to make a prayer that my sister recently took off to Arizona, and I just want to pray that she has a good time and that she's safe.
Okay, fantastic. That was a good prayer. Okay, Rabbi Tom? He's going to come on up at least part of the way here. You can meet him with the mic, Steve.
Okay, thank you. First, I'd like prayer for one of my granddaughters, Hannah, and also Leanne Robertson, who lives in Missouri, asked for prayer for a family member of hers who's up in years and seriously ill, and she's concerned about him.
Okay, we certainly can pray for that. Anybody else here locally? Okay, Robertson has a praise.
Well, my praise is that both my children finished, Brianna okay, I did that to myself. Brianna finished 9th grade, and Stephen finished 11th, so I have a senior coming up and a sophomore. So,
Amen. And both of them are getting ready to start being officially licensed and driving, so all of you need to be afraid. Okay. Okay. More, and a few of the teenagers are already driving, so we all need to just be in prayer for them and us. Actually, with what I've seen, everybody seems to be driving very well. So good job on you children. So that's good. Steve, you got a praise or a prayer?
Talk about driving. I'm going to be taking Evelyn to get her permit and at the end of summer get her a car. So pray for her.
Okay, are both of you going to take class at the same time? If you've not had the Steve driving experience, you don't know what you're missing. Okay. That's right. We're going to get you. He just said we're going to get a T-shirt. I survived the Waffle Express. Okay, so. Hey, listen. We have a good relationship. That, you know. I'm sorry, Steve. I didn't mean to say that, but it was just, I could not resist. All right. Anybody else dare to go next? Want to go next? Okay, Michelle, come on up. You can take the mic out if you want. Yeah.
Booby trapped it. I just wanted to give praise and thanks just for all the favor that Yahweh has given us.
Amen. Amen. All right. Anybody else? All right. So I just want to add something here before I get distracted and on a much more serious note. We got a quick call right during the oneg from Uncle Bob, and his wife Robin's sister passed today. So please keep Robin and the Shepherds and her family all in prayer. It seems like this is the month where she's lost, all the family members that she's lost have pretty much been June situations. So it's a rough time to be in June. And so, keep Robin for sure in prayer. And Rebbetzin will be talking to her probably later. But we just found this out literally as we finished eating. So let's keep them in prayer. All right. Did you have something? Okay, Becky. You can just grab the mic out of the stand, too. And then push the button by your left hand, your right hand, right there, that button. There you go. If it's on, it's off.
Okay. I just want prayer requests for my daughter in California. She's been really sick. She had a urinary tract infection, and then she ended up getting a side effect from the antibiotics, and now she's got shingles. Not shingles, but hives, and she's itching really bad, and she's just very weak. So if we could remember her in prayer.
Absolutely. Okay, anybody else? Okay, Caleb, come on up. That's all right. Apparently the mic is still on, so you don't have to push any buttons.
Just want to lift my mom up for prayers. This has been a pretty hard Father's Day for her. My grandpa is still in ICU. It's a long care ICU, so there's no end in sight right now. So she's having a hard time, and her mother has Alzheimer's, and they've been dealing with that prior to my grandpa going through what he went through. So she's just having a rough time.
Okay, we certainly can keep that in prayer. All right, anybody else? Okay, live stream.
Okay, we have a lot today, but I did want to kind of just take the time to say, I normally tend to be a very private guy, and I normally don't like to spread everything, but I think this would be an encouraging thing. I know there was a lot of things before I moved from California that I tried to take care of, and there was certain things I wasn't able to take care of till recently. So everybody knows I've been, I had surgery a couple weeks ago, like 2 weeks ago. And then yesterday I finally, for the first time, was able to get circumcised.
Yeah!
So I got circumcised yesterday, and I'm truly excited because it has been a tremendous journey, and it's a really special thing for me and my wife. And Abba's so good. He's so good, and he's just been good to me, and this was the least that I can do.
Amen. Amen. Welcome to the family, brother.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. Jessica, prayers for my mom. Not only is she in the hospital for COVID, but she has a lung infection as well as blood clots in both lungs. Lady Di, prayers for my incarcerated family members that they receive favor for early release. Glenn and Teresa, I ask prayer for my wife, please. Shirley, prayers for employment and normal lab work tomorrow. Prayers for comfort to all the grieving. Evangeline, praise Yah for a new month in our life. Month, work, incomes. She has unspoken for herself, family, work, and school. Walk softly, praise our daughter is showing some improvement on her new meds and hoping to only see a better state of mind from here. Joe Janice is praying for guidance. Kenneth, he'd like to give praise to Yah. He made 25 years as a police officer. In May, praise Yah, he survived to pension. Amen.
We have a lot of police officers that seem to think it's a good thing to move here. So just in case you're curious, we seem to have a lot of those moving.
We have room.
We have room for more, though.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So Peter, praise Yah for my beautiful and faithful wife whose birthday we are celebrating today in Australia.
Amen.
Happy birthday. Philip Mason, prayer. Please pray for Sarah Beth that she have shalom as she has a hectic work night ahead of her. Praise that Manny is back. Yeah. Carrie Ann, prayer request, please. Please pray that Yah make a way for our youngest to come live with us and contact with our oldest ones. Santee Lee, praise Father that the last report was accepted by the lawyer. Pray for new legal cases. Dale Bennett, pray for Mike and Gina to continue on the path. Mary Ann, please pray for our land in Arizona is having many fire issues. Nothing too drastic yet, but close to our homes. Pray for our nation to be healed and come together under God's banner. Amen. Chantel, prayer for our up-and-coming move. This will be our last Torah study in CT. Amen. Get down here already.
Where are you going? We look forward to seeing you very soon.
I think you have a teaching call then, don't you?
Yes, where are you going?
Rena says...
Where are we going?
Yeah, where are we going? Yeah. Rena, prayer request, please. I have a meeting with the governor of our state tomorrow, and I'm asking Yah for shalom, confidence in her presentation, as well as on some unspoken. Carrie Soveri, praise for our new building in Urbana, prayer that the AC gets fixed by next Shabbat. It was quite a warm last Shabbat. Evangeline, prayer for Jensen's work, Kyla's dad for schools, finances, education, or to bring her here. Let's see, Dominic and Elizabeth, prayer, we are a family of 8 children in a 3-bedroom house, so praying we will get a bigger house. Shelley Bell, prayers for me and some Marco Polo sisters with upcoming tests and health issues and upcoming surgery for me and others, and praise for Yah for continued shalom and strength in my emunah through all my storms. Amen. RGS, I would like to pray for all our brothers and sisters worldwide who are suffering from persecution, that Yahweh will strengthen and protect them. Amen. Peter Carl again, prayer for me to prepare to find a job to be a blessing to my family and congregation. Amen. Jim and Lynn, prayers that Kathy sells her house today so that she can proceed to move to Cleveland to be a part of the family. All right. Susan, I am praising Yahweh for his blessings, gifts, and guiding me to MTOI. And thanks to all at MTOI and everyone online. My prayers and love to all. Aaron Sullivan, praise the owner of the local greenhouse in my hometown saw my MTOI shirt and asked me about Torah. She's been studying for a while and is now looking for a place to fellowship. Beautiful. Oh, you got it over here. Okay, Dominic and Elizabeth, prayer. We are a family with 8 kids living in, I already read that one. Let's review that one. Carrie Ann, praise report. Praise, my parents found the help they needed to finish their office and their business, and praises, Manny is back, and praise Abba for my family's blessings. He is so magnificent. Kathleen, prayer request for the health of my clients and for my own courage in my walk. Kenya, prayers, blessed be to the Father, blessed to get my father, George, out this nursing home into my place for better retirement home. Kin is kinsman, redeemer. Shelley Bell, prayers for all those with mental health problems and fear issues. Sharon Masters, thanks to all who prayed for my son Chuck and his leg operation Thursday. They put off the surgery because of the blood had rerouted itself around the blockage and they need to give it more study. John McCormick, praises for the jobs I have received and the prayers for more to come. Also, my daughter Morgan is in the family way with our first grandchild. All right.
Amen.
Amen. Nigel Phillips, praise Yah for helping me to see life's blessings in the midst of my trials. Feeling truly blessed to be a part of the live Torah study after a few weeks away. Welcome back. Peter Carl, prayer for my mother-in-law Barbara and daughter Melanie for their healing and recovery post-surgery. Let's see. Arthur and Linda, prayers for Rosaline, Arthur's cousin. She is in emergency right now. Let's see. Tammy, prayers requested. My husband, Zach, is getting over coronavirus, and it is lingering, having pain when breathing. Tammy Cartwright, also prayers that it doesn't affect me as I have asthma. Christy, please pray Abba will keep me safe while in Oregon and lead me to MTOI Beth Shalom congregation in Cleveland. Amen. Deidre, prayers for Eric's family in El Salvador and Nicaragua who have contracted COVID-19. Also, please keep me in prayer. I have been feeling a lot of stress today and overwhelmed, trying my best. Diane Rodriguez, prayers for my mother who is battling dementia. Alicia, prayers for an old friend who contacted me. His name is Shay Alvarez. He's been studying the Torah and is starting to see truth. Shared the identity series with him. Norma Silva, pray for finances so I can help people. Musalam, prayer request that I can make it to the mikvah. MTOI Philippines, Jet, prayer request. Please pray for us as we slowly putting up our physical congregation. Praise report, we are growing. Amen. Helen Thrasher, prayers that I'm having a difficult time dealing with the situation and I would love to receive clarity how I can resolve the situation without killing my peace. Isela, prayer request for mother-in-law who has cancer, Estella from El Paso, Texas. Hey, my old stomping ground. Let's see. Ned Myers, that if Yah wants us to be in Cleveland, that he help us, that our house will sell. Alma Nichols, prayer that I get my COVID results back soon, and they are negative. John McCormick, prayers that son Patrick, he is getting married August 2nd. And Christine Race, prayers for me, the disease MS gets much worse in the heat and need to see some relief. And it's been jumping around, so I think I just about got everybody, but they're taking a minute to come out. Myrtle Walker, prayer for a 3-year-old who was hit in a hit-and-run little girl. And I've caught up.
All right. Appreciate that. And certainly we will appreciate all the praises as well as pray for all the needs, especially that little girl there at the end there. We want to make sure that we pray for everyone. And we had a few people that were having immediate emergencies and people that were dealing with things right now. And certainly we will put those as priorities in our prayers. Okay? We certainly want to pray for all those that have contacted us. And I'll tell you what, that phone starts ringing right away on Monday. Okay?
It does.
Not that it doesn't also ring on Sunday and Tuesday and every other day, but Monday, boy, it just really starts ringing. But we are very blessed to be able to help as many people as we can. You know, there's a tremendous amount of work that is done that is not just the teachings that you see on YouTube. And so we handle a lot of things and deal with people on all kinds of different levels. And so we certainly want to pray for all those that have been, asking us for prayer since we got together on Shabbat. I know it's only Tuesday, but believe it or not, there's still a lot of prayers needed. And so we certainly want to do that. Okay, so let's go ahead and see, could we get someone to open us up in prayer and also pray for the prayer requests? All right, why don't we get George? He might come up here and you can open us up.
Abba, Father, we thank you for allowing us to come together to draw attention to you, to have you front and center with everything in our hearts, our prayers, our thoughts in the Torah study tonight. Father, you've heard the petitions in these prayers for those in need. We ask that they be heard. We also ask that those that which weren't spoken also be heard, Father. You know the needs of your children. And so we come before you humbly and we ask in the name of your Son, Yeshua. Amen.
Amen. Amen. All right, so we will be doing some announcements. We'll do that in between the readings and the discussion. So what we're going to do now is go ahead and read this week's Torah portion. If you are interested in participating from a interactive point of view, or even if you're not, you may want to take notes anyway, but this would be a time for you to go ahead and make sure you have something to write down your notes on so that you can know what verses you may want to talk about when we discuss this. So we're going to read the Torah portion, then we're going to have a few minutes of just announcing a few things really quickly of what's coming up, and then we'll go ahead and discuss that Torah portion. So this week's Torah portion is Korach. All right, Korach. Actually, we should have been all like, boo, boo, Korach, boo. Should have been like all kinds of boos and hisses for Korach. All right, so it's Numbers chapter 16, 17, and 18. Okay, 3 chapters, so it's not a long Torah portion. I've only got 6 readings for us to do. I've got 5 chairs if you want to come and go ahead and fill up the chairs. And Rabbi Tom will be our first one, so that'll be 6. Excuse me. Okay? I just made half the internet think I have COVID because I coughed. All right. Okay, so the way this will work is I will call you up by name one at a time. I'll tell you what verses you're going to read and where you're going to start and where you're going to stop. I'll say a quick little traditional blessing over each reader, and then you'll read the section that you are going to read. Okay, so we'll begin. I'm going to walk up here. All right. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Rabbi Tom, who's come up to honor Yahweh and the Torah. May this set-apart one bless him and his family and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of his hands. Amen. So he's going to start us off in chapter 16 and read verses 1 through 17.
And Korah, son of Itchar, son of Kehath, son of Levi, took both Dathan and Abiram, sons of Eliab, and On, son of Peleth, sons of Reuben. And they rose up before Moshe with some of the children of Israel, 250 leaders of the congregation, called ones of the meeting, men of name. And they assembled against Moshe and against Aharon, and said to them, Enough of you, for all the congregation is set apart, all of them, and Yahweh is in their midst. Why then do you lift up yourselves above the assembly of Yahweh? And when Moshe heard, he fell on his face, and spoke to Korah and all his company, saying, Tomorrow morning Yahweh shall make known who is his and who is set apart, and bring him near to him. And let him bring near to him the one whom he chooses. Do this: take fire holders, Korah and all your company, and put fire in them, and put incense in them before Yahweh tomorrow. And it shall be that the one whom Yahweh chooses is the set-apart one. Enough of you, sons of Levi. And Moshe said to Korah, hear now, you sons of Levi. Is it little to you that the Elohim of Israel has separated you from the congregation of Israel to bring you near to himself, to perform the service of the dwelling place of Yahweh, and to stand before the congregation to serve them? And that he has brought you near to himself, you and all your brothers, the sons of Levi, with you. Yet you seek the priesthood as well? Therefore you and all your company are set against Yahweh. And Aharon, what is he that you grumble against him? And Moshe sent to call Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab. But they said, we're not coming up. Is it little that you have brought us up out of the land flowing with milk and honey to kill us in the wilderness, that you would also seize total control over us? Also, you have not brought us into a land flowing with milk and honey, nor given us an inheritance of fields and vineyards. Why would you bore out the eyes of these men? We are not coming up. And Moshe became very displeased and said to Yahweh, do not respect their offering. I have not taken one donkey from them, nor have I done harm to any of them. And then Moshe said to Korah, tomorrow you and all your company shall be there before Yahweh, you and they and Aharon. And take each one his fire holder, and you shall put incense in it, and let each one bring his fire holder before Yahweh, 250 fire holders, and you and Aharon, each one with his fire holder.
Amen. Amen. Okay, thank you, Rabbi Tom. Okay, next up is George. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless George, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless him and his family and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of his hands. Amen. Okay, George is going to take us now from verse 18 to 33.
So each one took his fire holder and put fire in it, and laid incense on it, and stood at the door of the tent of appointment with Moshe and Aharon. And Korah assembled all the congregation against them at the door of the tent of appointment. Then the esteem of Yahweh appeared to all the congregation. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe and to Aharon, saying, separate yourselves from the midst of this congregation, and let me consume them in a moment. But they fell on their faces and said, O Elohim of the spirits of all flesh, when one man sins, are you wroth with all the congregation? Then Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to the congregation, saying, move away from the ground of the tents of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. So Moshe rose up and went to Dathan and Abiram, and the elders of Israel followed him. And he spoke to the congregation, saying, please turn away from the tents of these wrong men. Do not touch whatever belongs to them, lest you be consumed in all their sins. Then they moved away from around the tents of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. And Dathan and Abiram came out and stood at the door of their tents with their wives and their sons and their little children. And Moshe said, by this you know that Yahweh has sent me to do all these works, that they are not from my own heart. If these die, as all men do, or if they are visited, as all men are visited, then Yahweh has not sent me. But if Yahweh creates what is unheard of, and the earth opens its mouth and swallows them up with all that belongs to them, and they go down alive into Sheol, then you shall know that these men have scorned Yahweh. And it came to be, as he ended, speaking all these words, that the ground under them split apart, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them up with their households and all the men with Korah, with all their goods. So they lived, and all those with them went down alive into Sheol, and the earth closed over them, and they perished from the midst of the assembly.
Amen. Amen. Okay, next up. Gabe. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Gabe who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless him and his family and send blessing and prosperity on all the works of his hands. Amen. Okay, you're going to take us now from verse 34 to the end of the chapter.
And all Israel who were round about them fled at their cry, for they said, lest the earth swallow us up. And a fire came out from Yahweh and consumed the 250 men who were offering incense. And Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, say to Eleazar, son of Aaron, the priest, to pick up the fire holders out of the blaze, for they are set apart, and scatter the fire some distance away. The fire holders of these men who sin against their own lives, let them be made into beaten plates as a covering for the slaughter place, because they brought them before Yahweh. Therefore they are set apart. And let them become a sign to the children of Israel. And Eleazar the priest took the bronze fire holders, which those who were burned up had brought, and they were beaten out as a covering on the slaughter place, a remembrance to the children of Israel, that no stranger who is not of the seed of Aaron should come near to offer incense before Yahweh, and not be like Korah and his company, as Yahweh had said to him through Moshe. But all the congregation of the children of Israel grumbled against Moshe and against Aaron on the next day, saying, You have killed the people of Yahweh. And it came to be, when the congregation assembled against Moshe, against Aaron, that they turned toward the tent of appointment, and see, the cloud covered it, and the steam of Yahweh appeared. And Moshe and Aaron came before the tent of appointment. And Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, Arise from amidst this congregation, and let me consume them in a moment. And they fell on their faces. So Moshe said to Aaron, Take the fire holder and put fire in it from the slaughter place, and lay incense on, and go, hurry to the congregation, and make atonement for them. For wrath has gone out, appointed for them. For wrath has, from Yahweh the plague has begun. And Aaron took it as Moshe commanded, and ran into the midst of assembly, and saw that the plague had begun among the people. And he laid on the incense and made appointment for the people, and stood between the dead and the living. And the plague was stopped. And those who died in the plague were 14,700, besides those who died on account of Korah. Then Aaron returned to Moshe at the door of the tent of appointment, for the plague had stopped.
Amen. 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 Okay, Shannon. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may bless Shannon, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless her and her family, and send blessing and prosperity on all the works of her hands. Amen. You're going to read chapter 17, the whole chapter. It's just 13 verses.
And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, and take from them a rod from each father's house, all their leaders according to their father's houses, 12 rods. Write each one's name on his rod, and write Aharon's name on the rod of Levi, for there is one rod for the head of each father's house. And you shall then place them in the tent of appointment before the witness, where I meet with you. And it shall be that the rod of the man whom I choose buds, and I shall rid myself of the grumblings of the children of Israel, which they grumble against you. And Moshe spoke to the children of Israel, and all their leaders gave him a rod each, for each leader according to their father's houses, 12 rods, and the rod of Aharon was among the rods. So Moshe placed the rods before Yahweh in the tent of the witness. And it came to be on the next day that Moshe went to the tent of the witness, and saw that the rod of Aharon of the house of Levi had budded, and brought forth buds, and blossomed, and bore ripe almonds. And Moshe brought all of the rods from before Yahweh to all the children of Israel. And they looked, and each man took his rod. And Yahweh said to Moshe, Bring Aharon's rod back before the witness, to be kept as a sign against the rebels, so that you put an end to their grumblings against me, lest they die. And Moshe did as Yahweh had commanded him, so he did. And the children of Israel spoke to Moshe, saying, See, we shall die, we shall perish, we shall all perish. Anyone who comes near the dwelling place of Yahweh dies. So shall we be consumed to die?
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Shannon. All right, Kip. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Kip, who's come up down to Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless him and his family, and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of his hands. Amen. Okay, you're going to take us now to chapter 18 and read verses 1 through 15.
And Yahweh said to Aharon, You and your sons and your father's house with you are to bear the crookedness against the set-apart place, and you and your sons with you are to bear the crookedness against your priesthood. But bring with you your brothers of the tribe of Levi too, the tribe of your father, to join you and serve you, while you and your sons are with you before the tent of the witness. And they shall guard your charge and the duty of all the tent, but they do not come near the furnishings of the set-apart place and the slaughter place, lest they die, both they and you. And they shall be joined with you and guard the duty to the tent of appointment for all the service of the tent, but a stranger does not come near you. And you shall guard the duty of the set-apart place and the duty of the slaughter place, so that there be no more wrath on the children of Israel. And see, I myself have taken your brothers, the Levites, from the midst of the children of Israel, a gift to you, given by Yahweh, to do the service of the tent of appointment. But you and your sons with you are to guard your priesthood for all matters at the slaughter place and behind the veil, and you shall serve. I have given you the priesthood as a gift for service, but the stranger who comes near it is put to death. And Yahweh spoke to Aharon, and see, I myself have also given you the charge of my contributions, all the set-apart gifts of the children of Israel. I have given them to you for the anointing, and to your sons as a law forever. This is yours of the most set-apart gifts from the fire. All their offerings, all their grain offerings, and all their sin offerings, and all their guilt offerings, which they render to me, are most set apart for you and your sons. Eat it in the most set-apart place. Every male eats it. It is set apart to you. This also is yours, the contribution of their gift, with all the wave offerings of the children of Israel. I have given them to you and your sons and daughters with you as a law forever. Everyone who is clean in your house eats it. All the best of the oil and all the best of the new wine and the grain, their first fruits which they give to Yahweh, I have given them to you. The first fruits of all that is in their land which they bring to Yahweh are yours. Everyone who is clean in your house eats it. All that is dedicated in Israel is yours. Everyone opening a womb of all flesh which they bring to Yahweh, whether man or beast, is yours. But to ransom, you shall ransom the firstborn of man, and the firstborn of the unclean beast you ransom.
Amen. Amen. Caleb. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Caleb, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless him and his family, and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of his hands. Amen. Okay, you're going to take us now from verse 16 to the end of the chapter.
And ransom their ransom ones. When 1 new moon old, according to your valuation, 5 shekels of silver, according to the shekel of the set apart place, which is 20 gerahs. But the firstborn of a cow, or the firstborn of a sheep, or the firstborn of a goat, you do not ransom. They are set apart. Sprinkle their blood on the slaughter place, and burn their fat as an offering made by fire for a sweet fragrance to Yahweh. And their flesh is yours, as the wave breast, as the right thigh, it is yours. All the contributions of the set-apart gifts which the children of Israel present to Yahweh, I have given to you and your sons and daughters with you as a law forever. It is a covenant of salt forever before Yahweh, with you and your seed with you. And Yahweh said to Aaron, you are not to have an inheritance in their land, nor have any portion in their midst. I am your portion and your inheritance among the children of Israel. And see, I have given the children of Levi all the tithes in Israel, and an inheritance in return for the service which they are serving, the service of the tent of appointment. And let the children of Israel no more come near the tent of appointment, lest they bear sin and die. Because the Levites shall do the service of the tent of appointment, so they themselves bear their crookedness. A law forever throughout your generations, that among the children of Israel they are to have no inheritance, but the tithes of the children of Israel, which they present as a contribution to Yahweh, I have given to the Levites as an inheritance. That is why I have said to them, among the children of Israel, they have no inheritance. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to the Levites, and say to them, when you take from the children of Israel the tithes which I have given you from them as your inheritance, then you shall present a contribution of it to Yahweh, a tenth of the tithe. And your contribution shall be reckoned to you as grain from the threshing floor and as filling from the winepress. Thus you all present a contribution unto Yahweh from all your tithes which you receive from the children of Israel. And you shall give from it the contribution to Yahweh, to Aaron the priest. From all your gifts you present every contribution due to Yahweh. From all the best of them, the set apart part of them. And you shall say to them, when you have presented the best of it, then the rest shall be reckoned to the Levites, as the yield of the threshing floor, and as the yield of the winepress. And you shall eat it in any place, and your households, for it is your reward for your service in the tent of appointment. And bear no sin because of it, when you have presented the best of it, and do not profane the set-apart gifts of the children of Israel, lest you die.
and has planted eternal life in our midst. Blessed are you, Yahweh, giver of the Torah. Amen. Amen. Okay. Now, so let me go through some announcements quickly here before we go into our discussion portion of the evening, just to kind of review some of the things that are coming up here in a little bit. First, I want to welcome our guests. If we have any guests online, I'm sure we do. And so we do want to make sure that they feel welcome. We're children of Avraham, who is known for his hospitality. And so we certainly want to appreciate the guests. How many do we have logged in right now? 259. Very nice. So that's okay. What was that? It just jumped up to 263. Do I hear 264? Going once, going twice. 265. All right, just a reminder, all of you online, if you go ahead and make sure to subscribe if you have not already done so, we'd appreciate that. It does. Look, we only look at the numbers because it lets us know whether or not we're being effective and how effective we're being as we try to reach out, with this message and make it available to people. Okay? And so we just want to make sure that we have done that, all right, as best that we can. And anyway, okay. So we do want to welcome our guests. So every Tuesday night, so this is especially for the guests, every Tuesday night we do this study. We do a Torah study portion. Well, not this study. We're not going to do Korach every Tuesday night. But we are going to do the Torah portion every Tuesday night. And we're here 8 o'clock Eastern time if you would like to join us. And we appreciate you being here. And as part of the Torah study, we also want to let you know of two other things connected with it that are available to you. We have a children's program, and it's called Parsha Pearls, and it has a separate website, ymtoi.org, ymtoi.org. And on that site, you can download the weekly Torah portion for children. It's a PDF with all kinds of great activities for them. You have, of course, the discussion of the Torah portion that's in there, and as well as some questions and things to fill in the blanks, etc., to see if they were paying attention, if they understood what they were studying there. There are coloring pages and mazes and crossword puzzles, word searches, all kinds of other things that are Torah portion related but also fun, so that the children can engage with the material and enjoy it and see that studying the Torah is a delight. And we've got a snack that is related to so you can make a snack for the children. We've got a notebook page, a craft, Hebrew flashcards, a song. Wow, there's a lot of stuff. I think I want to do this program. It sounds fun. Okay, so it's a great program, and it's free, and it's on our website, so you're welcome to download it. Use it for Shabbat school. Use it for, your homeschooling, your Torah program that you might have with your homeschooling, etc. Okay? All right. Now, that being said, that is posted every Sunday for the following week. So that's posted on Sunday for the following week. And so the next Torah portion will be posted this Sunday for next week, okay? So this one is for this week. Okay, now, we also have scripture audio readings. So the audio of the scriptures being read by Shira Wendling, a member of our congregation. We appreciate Shira reading the scriptures for all of us. It's separated out by Torah portion. Right now we have 4 of the 5 books are done. We've got Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, and Genesis. So we got the only thing we're missing is Exodus, and we'll have that posted soon. And so we're very appreciative of that. So it's just free to download. Go to the MTOI.org website, look under media, and you'll see audio scripture readings. All right, now, every Shabbat we live stream our services. So if you're new to MTOI and Beth Shalom, our congregation here, we do stream our services every Shabbat at 1:15 Eastern time. I should have mentioned the Torah study was at 8 o'clock Eastern time. And so Shabbat, we start off at 1:15. We actually start streaming some slides of some of the upcoming events and things like that, and have some music playing starting at about 1. And but the service starts at 1:15. Okay? Then on July 10th, we're going to have our next Erev Shabbat fellowship meal here with the Mishpacha, with the family. Okay, July 10th, we'll be doing that at 6 o'clock. And that will be the weekend of the picnic and mikvah, which will be on Sunday, July 12th. Okay, we expect that will be at Chester Frost Park in Hickson. Okay, and we'll give you more details as we get closer to that. And then, of course, you have all our leadership meetings will be on Sunday, July the 19th. Okay, the Sunday the 19th. So I think that will cover it for the announcements. All right. Oh, yes, I forgot to mention that. So when is that? This Sunday? Okay, this Sunday, 1 o'clock, we're having the baby shower right here. Okay, we'll be hosting it for the 2 moms that are expecting. Okay, so we're going to have for Christina and for Deirdre. Okay, so we're having a baby shower here, 1 o'clock on this Sunday. See Michelle for details. Okay? Good. Okay. All right, so we're going to discuss the Torah portion now. Boy, there's a lot of not so great things happening in this Torah portion, huh? Surprise, surprise, rebellion again. Boy, do we have a challenge with authority, don't we? All right. So let's go ahead and discuss this. So if you're online, Rob and Manny are taking down notes. Looks like they've switched seats to take turns here. You guys online may not notice that, but I can see it from here. Anyway, so go ahead and type in your comments or questions, and we'll get to those. If you're here, Steve, you want to bring the mic out for us? If you're here, you can go ahead and raise your hand, and I'll call you up for comments or questions. Rabbi Tom had his hand up. If you want to bring him back the mic, that'd be great. Just pull it out of the holder there and bring it back to him. Now, as you go back there, I'll kind of lay the ground rules here. So what we're trying to do is 2 things. One, where we really want to do more than anything else, is we want to look for ourselves in the Torah portion. What can we glean out of this, the account of these events, that we can apply in our lives to grow further in the process of becoming Yeshua-like, to help us along the path to the kingdom? And so we want to look and analyze the behavior of all of the different players in the stories here, that we can see how they made the decisions they made and what choices they made, and see how that may match up with some things we may face and choices we make, and learn from the lessons. Because, Paul told us these things were written as examples for us so that we could learn from what they did. And we will see, as always when we read Scripture, sometimes people make good decisions, sometimes they don't make such good decisions. Just like you, just like me, right? We don't always make good decisions. And so that's primarily what we're looking for today. The other thing is I would ask that we try to do this as much as we can chronologically. So we're looking at chapter 16 first. Okay, Rabbi Tom.
Okay, thank you. Just a couple of things I noticed. The rebellion of Korah occurred right on the heels of the giving of the command to wear tzitzit. And I thought that was in there. Maybe he forgot. But I really love this stone humash because how it words it. It says, Korah separated himself. And I found that it just blew my mind because I never read it that way. He separated himself. And what I related that to was that sometimes we have to be, not sometimes, all the time, we have to be very careful that we don't separate ourselves in any way from the rest of the congregation.
Amen. It's not just, now, what caused the separating of self? The self-sovereignty. They decided, I don't think this is the way it should be. Why you, why this, why that, enough of this, blah, 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 right? So, in other words, he decided for himself that he didn't like what was going on with the leadership. I'm not saying that you can't ever have bad leadership. I'm just saying this is the problem that was going on here, in a situation where Moses was clearly the anointed appointed and, Korach was having an issue. By the way, you notice that right at the beginning in verses 1 and 2 that we're dealing with Korah, who was a Kehathite, with some of the Reubenites, which conveniently they were conspiring together because they happened to be camped next to each other. If you remember the layout of the tabernacle and the way the camps were outside the tabernacle, Reuben in the south was right there next to the Kehathites. So you had the tabernacle, then the sons of Levi, which in this case in that part of it was the Kehathites, and then Reuben and the tribes with Reuben, and Reuben being the head tribe would have been closest to the tabernacle. So it was certainly conveniently located for there to be something going on between the Reubenites and the Kehathites. Okay, it wasn't like they were on opposite ends of the camp trying to figure out how to conspire. That's something so some of you think, well, why does it matter to know who was on the south and who was on the east and all the other stuff? Well, this helps you understand what was going on here. I mean, they were very much right next to each other, their two camps, okay, where this stuff was being conspired. Okay, who's next? Okay, Steve?
All right, I had something along where Rabbi Tom was talking about, 'cause I had the thought.
Okay, the cameraman thinks you're a moving target. You're going to have to find some place and
All right,
stop.
I'll stop here. It's just like this is my thought I had. It's just like some, once given leadership responsibility, they decide they know better than the leader that brought them up. To me, the student can't become greater than the teacher unless the teacher raises them up above that themselves. So why is it some look to appoint, once they're appointed, want to take the thing in a whole nother direction? So, and then my question is to everybody, is that the plan that you have with the Father's instructions? That you think you know better than him and you want to go in another direction?
Okay. All right, did you have a comment on the same thing? Something along those lines, or? Serenity had her hand up? She had a question? Okay. You can bring the mic over to her. Why don't we just go back to the old way of just you bringing around the mic? A little easier today.
I was wondering what it meant in chapter 16, verse 38. It says, the men who sinned against their own lives.
Okay, so we can deal with that, and then we'll go back to the beginning of the chapter. But okay, so this is, think about who it was that had the fire holders. These were the leaders. Okay, so in other words, they sinned against their own positions. It cost them their lives, but they sinned against their positions. They had a position of authority that was within inside of a structure, and they decided to step outside the structure. Now, if you have, a building, let's say you've got a 15-floor building, and the third floor decided all of a sudden it didn't want to be part of the building. Okay, that could be a problem for the rest of the building. Okay? And that's kind of what happened here. Okay, they sinned against their lives. In other words, their positions. They sinned against, where they were appointed and where they were set. And so, does that answer the question for you? Does that help? Okay, good. All right. Want to give Richard the mic?
As I noted, a little observation here that these appointed leaders, and it might be wise for me to take note, listen to what they say. In 13, it says, is it little that you have brought us up out of a land flowing with milk and honey? Are they not speaking of Egypt?
No, actually, at this point, because they went to spy the land and they rejected it, they could have been talking about either one. Because after all, once they decided they were ready to go in, and Moses told them not to go in, and that didn't go well. It could have been Egypt. It could have also been the land itself. And it didn't matter to them. They were going to point the finger at whatever they were going to point the finger at. They just did not want. They did not want to. They didn't. Think about this with you. Are you ever satisfied where you're at? Are you satisfied where you are? Because they're not satisfied where they are. When they were there in Egypt, they didn't like it, of course, because they were slaves. When they had their opportunity to go in the land, they didn't like it because they thought the giants were scary and the walls and everything. Then they're in the wilderness, they don't like it, even though they're being provided with everything they need. They're never happy. They're never satisfied. Anybody else on this chapter 16 here? Okay.
Verse 26 jumped out where the people are being told to turn away from the men that are doing the wrong, lest they be consumed in all their sin. And it just kind of rung out with me as far as, how you always say that when people are put outside the camp, and, you've given the story where people have gone out to console them, and how you've said that, we're not to do that. And so that just kind of jumped out, as I guess, solidifying what you'd said.
Amen. And bear in mind that, like I said in the past, but which comes from this as well, These are people that put themselves outside the camp. They weren't thrown outside the camp. They made a choice. And Moses said, they've made their choice, even though they're in the camp right now, but they've chosen to separate themselves. I would get away from them if I were you, because whatever's coming, you don't want it coming on you as well. All right? And so when you know people have been rebellious, oh, but I like them, and they're my friend and everything else, well, but stuff is coming their way, and you may not want to be a part of that. Okay? And so you have to be careful with how you allow your emotions to, kind of skew your decision making. How many teachers out there that absolutely have broken some of the scriptural rules of engagement, like naming dates and other things, and you still listen to them? Oh, but Rabbi, you don't understand how important this person was in my journey here. Well, so was being a Catholic or a charismatic or a Baptist that was part of your journey here, or a Jew or whatever you were before. I mean, it was a part of a journey. It wasn't something to now be still connected to. And so, yes, that person, I'm glad they helped you get here, whatever here is, wherever you are in your walk. I don't mean necessarily just MTOI, but this place in your journey. But if you recognize that they're wrong in some way, like those that consistently love to just name the dates and they don't happen, name the dates and they don't happen. Deuteronomy 13 tells you you do not need to be involved with those people anymore. But you are, and you still do, and you still listen. Some of you are still listening to the ones from Sunday, Christmas, and Easter people, mainstream. And you send me videos all the time of these mainstream prophets, so-called prophets, telling the world is coming to an end soon and the rapture and all this other stuff that they believe in. And you send me these videos. It's like, I'm sorry, but you know what? These people may have been allowed to be a part of your journey in some small way. That doesn't mean Yahweh's using them to prophetically get out the important messages. Okay? I'm going to look for the Torah observant prophets. Okay? Oh, but Rabbi, these guys have been right so much. I could send you a person on the corner who reads Tithes that's right so much. Big deal. Okay? Because I'm sure all of you know somebody who knows somebody that does some sort of paranormal stuff and actually is right a lot. Does that make them actually right, though? Just because what they've said has happened? You don't want that source. You don't want to go to that source. Okay, so we've got to be careful with that. But that should be part of the warning to you. When people separate, this is the key, when they separate themselves, do you want to be nearby, or do you need to give them some space? Now, that doesn't mean that you shun. We don't shun anybody. Moses has said, you need to move away. Just give them some space, because you don't want to be there when the next thing happens. Because if you're there, what befalls them is going to befall you. And that's what you need to be thinking about. Okay, who's next? Okay, Rebbitzin has her hand up. Man, I want to get back to the beginning of the chapter, but we'll get there.
Okay, two things that struck me in chapter 16 was in verse 3, where they come up to Moshe and Aharon and say, enough of you. And then he comes back to them in verse 7 and says back, enough of you. So I like that interplay, like they were bold and trying to be bullies, and he's like right back at them. And then later, they're like little kids, they say in verse 12, we're not coming up. And then in 14, they say, we're not coming up. Like when you call a kid out and you say, come here. And they're like, no, I'm not coming, I'm scared.
Amen. See, that's where I was hoping to get to. Thank you. That was the first thing at the top of my page here is the enough of you stuff. Is that was the name of the Parsha for the kids? Enough of you? There you go. Okay, but let's deal with this for a second, all right? So in verse 3, this is not just Korach and Dathan and Aviram. They rose up before Moshe with some of the children of Israel, 250 leaders. They went and gathered themselves a whole bunch of people on their side first before they went to go and get in Moses and Aaron's face. But I want you to pay attention to the part, and this does not diminish what my wife said. I want to show you the more important part. Why was What was the motivator for the enough of you? I want you to be aware of this could be a problem in you. Okay, just be careful with this. He says, enough of you, because aren't we all called and set apart? Aren't we all anointed? Don't we all have the Spirit? This is what it would sound like today. Don't we all blah, 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 blah? See, if you're still dispensationalist, if you're still going to think through mainstream Christianity's way of saying things, you're going to think that somehow something's different now than it was then. No, nothing's different. And so there's still anointed appointed, there's still structure, there's still places and positions that you can have within that structure, and you need to respect and honor the place he puts you in that place, within the structure. But here they are saying, enough of you, for all the congregation is set apart, all of them, and Yahweh is in their midst. Why then do you lift up yourselves above the assembly? So rather than recognize that Yahweh placed them there, they're going to accuse, you have lifted yourselves up. You set yourself up in authority. You want everybody bowing down to you. By the way, I've been accused of all these things like any other leader. Okay, every leader gets accused of these things at some point. Oh, well, you just like everybody, blah, blah, blah. You just like to be in charge. You just want everybody to do what you say. Okay, look, let me tell you something. There's nothing about this job to like. Now, there's a lot about this job to love, but there's not a whole lot about this job to like, okay? And so when I don't think that there's too many leaders, if I talk to them, that would say if they had a choice, this is what they would choose. But they're placed there. I'm talking about the anointed ones, the anointed appointed. They're placed there. Not because that this is what they wanted necessarily. And he draws people to those people as leaders, as part of the structure. Okay? And so you have that, going on there. So that's the important piece here is be careful about this mindset that could be in you or the group of people trying to draw you into their group as they're attacking a leadership, saying, well, who does he think he is? We all have the Spirit. We're all anointed. We're all called. We're all this. We're all that. We're all saved. We're all born again, whatever phrase they use. Because, by the way, this is on the internet, on YouTube all the time. All those out there attacking leadership, attacking that we need teachers and all that other stuff. Ministry after ministry saying, oh, no, we only need the Ruach, and we all have the Ruach, so we don't need these teacher guys. Does this not sound a little bit like chapter 16? And so Moses in the leadership position goes to Yahweh and says, enough of these guys. I mean, it's starting to get a little bit, I'm a little tired of this constant attacking, constantly not being trusted, constantly being, put down by people that just don't want to understand the position and the responsibilities that I have. So yeah, he gets to the place where in verse 7 into verse 8, verse 7 he goes and he says, do this, take fire holders in verse 6, Korach and all your company, and put fire in them and put incense in them before Yahweh tomorrow. And it shall be that the one whom Yahweh chooses is the set apart one. Enough of you, you sons of Levi. Okay? Of course, now, this gets done, even though they keep saying we're not coming. They come anyway. Okay? And so this is the big takeaway, hopefully, for all of you. This is a dangerous place emotionally and in your mindset to end up. Where you start thinking, now again, it's the same thing with like men and women, okay? There's certain things for men, certain things for women, and women can sometimes feel like there's a prejudice against women in Scripture or some other thing. Women and men have equal value scripturally. You might have different roles to play, but you're equally valuable. There's no higher value in a man or versus a woman. There's no higher value in... The same thing with the person in leadership. He has a role to play, but he's not looked at or loved any less or any more than the person who's in a different role. They just have a different role to play. So it's not a hierarchy in Abba's eyes in terms of, well, he's superior to you in some way. There's no superior, inferior structure here. Now, there are leaders that start to think that way. That's a problem. Where they think they're better than the people in the group and that they're above them in that way. They're only above them in the vertical structure in terms of the serving responsibilities. In other words, they have a higher level of serving responsibilities in that one area. I mean, look, I'm glad everybody's not a Torah teacher. We eventually need somebody sometimes to fix our car or to be a doctor or a lawyer or to be the one cooking the food or, like at a restaurant. I mean, we need people to do all the other things in life. I mean, figure out, every possible vocation you can think of. And if everybody was just teaching Torah, there wouldn't be anybody doing any of the other things we need in life. And so those are highly valued things that you all do, because we all need people doing whatever it is you do. But don't be envious of the position that the leadership might have within this. Just like you shouldn't be envious of the leadership in any company you work at, anywhere. I mean, that's their job. And so you do what you do. Now, if you happen to be doing something that you can move up within, then you can go ahead and move up within. But within the structure. But don't do it by tearing down the structure, attacking the structure, mocking the structure, usurping the authority within the structure and all the other stuff. Because this is what happens, is people have a congregation, somebody will come into the congregation or maybe be there a while, and all of a sudden they're going to start having people over to their house and start whispering over during the onegs and all the little in the corners, and they're going to try to gather people onto their way of seeing things. And that's when they're going to start pointing out the leadership. Well, who does he think he is? That's really what's going on here. Moses, who do you think you are? Aren't we all set apart? Weren't we all at Mount Sinai? Didn't we all pass through the water? Didn't we all do all these things? That's true. We all did that. But I'm the one who gave the responsibility to do this. And excuse me, Korach, but you have a responsibility in terms of certain items in the tabernacle that you're supposed to take care of a certain way. And that's your job. And I'm not supposed to do that job. You are. Just like you're not supposed to do my job. As a matter of fact, other people who try to do your job might get killed. We know a guy named Uzzah that did that. Okay? So other people trying to do your job would be in just as much trouble as you're trying to do mine. That's what Moses is saying there. So that's really the most important part of this whole Torah portion that everything else plays out of is the emotional jealousies, envies. This is the 10th commandment, right? The coveting. Okay, it's the root of all the other sins, is the I don't like, I don't think that's fair, I want. That should be me. The envy and the jealousy and the coveting. And you see this with Aaron and Miriam did this. That didn't go well either. And some of you think, well, it says in the New Testament in certain places that once we believe in Messiah, that we never sin after that. No, it doesn't say it that way. You're misunderstanding what it says. Just like here, he gave them the commandments. They still sinned. He even gave them the seat instruction right before this, as was pointed out, and they still sinned. Until you give up the flesh and the blood, in other words, until you change from the corruptible, you can still be corruptible. So what you're doing for the whole time in this corruptible shell, this flesh suit, is you're battling against the flesh, against the things from below, against the Hasatan. That's Hasatan's whole voice, right? Well, you're going to take that? You're going to let him be in charge? Why not you? You're just as good as he is. Who does he think he is? Or the leadership is going to try to correct you. Or who are you to correct me? That's going to happen. Look, you have an example here. We are going to skip ahead just a second here. In chapter 18, we're told about the contribution. All the tithe went to the Levites, and then the Levites were to take a tithe of that and give it to the Kohanim. Guess what Malachi is all about? The Levites weren't doing that. So correction eventually came from a prophet, from Yahweh through a prophet. How do we rob Yahweh? He says, will you rob Elohim? He says, what do you mean, how are we robbing Elohim? Every church has tried to use that against you. Well, of course, if it goes for them, it goes for you as well. But you were not the subject of the chastisement there. The Levites were. But here's the instruction that caused Malachi to have to say that. He said, those contributions that come to the Levites, you guys collect it, and you're going to go give a tithe of that to take care of the Kohanim, the high priests. And so that, some of you, again, and we said this the other week when it came up, but some of you really are going to have a hard time, with the way this is worded. But the way this is worded, it says very, very clearly here in verse, I want to make sure which verse I'm reading here. Let's see, in 28 and in 31. Okay, we're in chapter 18 here. It says, thus you shall present a contribution unto Yahweh from all your tithes which you receive from the children of Israel, and give it from the contribution to Aaron the priest. Now, it says here in verse 31, and you shall eat it in any place in your household, etc., for it is your reward for your service. Read verse 24 through 28, 31, etc., where it starts out in 24, which says, but the tithes of the children of Israel, which they present as contribution to Yahweh, have given to the Levites as an inheritance. So, for all of you that want to get bent out of shape about what happens to your tithe once you put it in the box, you need to understand that whoever the person, remember, the point here is not just being a Levite. Here it's specifically Levite and then Kohen, but it has to do with this is your reward for your service. We don't have Levite priests anymore. We have Melchizedekian priests, which, by the way, that's where the tithes were first given. You see Abram giving it to Melchizedek. And again, this is not a point I'm making because I want to do anything with the money. But you need to know that I can. Whoever the leadership can do that. It's for him. Of course, I don't need all that, so we use it for all the other stuff that we do. And Levi didn't need it all either, so he's used it for all the other stuff that they do. The point being that because of the provision, I, in this position, or someone like me, doesn't have anything to distract from this job like needing to do something to produce an income. Because I've heard people say, well, why do we need full-time ministry? Well, I don't know. Are you only planning to have need on Saturday? You're never going to have anything go wrong in your life that you need counsel on except on Saturday. Which, by the way, at that point, you're not going to get the help you need because on Saturday, they're going to be doing Shabbat services and be already meeting the needs of a whole lot of other people. Abba knows, and most of you should know for yourselves, that you need 24/7 availability in the leadership, in the ministry. And that's why they were compensated so well. Say, look, you're not just going to work a 40-hour work week or 6 days you shall work and you just have to go out there and you plant the crops and then you can sit back while they're growing and just tend them. Because really, most of the work was in harvesting and in planting. Not that there wasn't any other work. I mean, there's work all the time. But I mean, that was the hardest time, right? You had to get that crop in the ground and prepare the ground, and you had to get it out before anything went wrong with it. But in the meantime, you look to the leadership. The ministry needs to be available 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, every day of the year. So they don't get anything hourly. They get compensated in a way. So you should want your leadership to be compensated well. You should want this ministry to have enough funds so that we can help compensate some of the leadership within our extended affiliates who don't have full-time ministries. So we can help offset that, so we can help them. Because if you have a congregation of 15, 20 people, they can't support a full-time ministry with just 3 or 4 families. Because 15, 20 people, 3 or 4 or 5 people each, that's it. 3, 4, 5 families. And you can't really support a full-time person with that. But those 5 families, 4 families, whoever it is, they need it. They need someone to be available and be there. And so just let's keep that in mind. It's very important as we look at this section here. I know we jumped from 16 to 18, but it's part of the same problem. Because look, the guys in 16 are not going to want to be giving the tithes and offerings to the guys in 18. That heart, that mindset. And there are those of you out there watching me right now. Some of you may still be in this room, but most of you are probably out there. You guys in here probably have this more squared away because you've been around with this ministry for a while. You've heard these teachings. But there's some of you that still do not want to depart with your funds and give them to a ministry because lots of reasons. You give excuses, but really it has to do with you and your money and not wanting to part from it. One of the excuses you like to use, though, is, well, I don't know what he's going to do with it, or I want to find out where the money's going and all this other stuff. And there are people making up all kinds of amazing things about where the money goes and how we spend it here. Doesn't matter that we've had audits done so that we could purchase properties, and we've had every bit of our books gone over by outside, CPA firms just to make sure everything is good, to maintain our proper status and everything else. That doesn't seem to matter. We've been accused of everything under the sun, as all ministries do. But just so you know, let's take this as it's straightforward. You are giving it to, as it says, the contributions to Yahweh. Okay? He says, thus you shall also present a contribution unto Yahweh from all your tithes which you receive. This is now for the Levites to give. Now, they're still saying that the stuff that the Levites received, they're still giving it unto Yahweh by giving it to the Kohanim. This is the important thing that we understand. Verse 26 talks about the same thing. When you take from the children of Israel the tithes which I have given you from them as inheritance, then you're going to present a contribution of it to Yahweh, a tenth of the tithe. But it's still onto Yahweh. What you do within the structure, you're doing onto Him. Of course, if you don't like the structure, you're not going to do it. If you think that this, it's wrong of that person because they're a flawed human being and you don't think that they have any business being in that position, well, you didn't put me here. None of you put me here. None of you were around when I started. Okay? Not a single one of you. There was not a person in this room who was here when we started this version of our ministry, because we took a break there for a little while, but since we've been around for over 8.5 years now, there's not a single person here who was here when we started. So none of you put me in this position. Okay? And I pray that you did not move here, those of you who moved here, other than the fact that you saw Yahweh doing something and saw His hand here in some way. And you're following the sign of the pillar of the cloud or the pillar of the fire, whichever way that was. Okay, but just let's understand the heart and mindset that can get you in so much trouble, because the people like this are going to try to draw you into this if you're not this. Did you follow that? Too many thises in a sentence. Okay? If this is not your mindset problem, those with this problem here, they will meet you someday and try to pull you in. They will draw at you and tug at you to pull you into this kind of a mindset. You got to be ready for it. I'm not saying all of this this has nothing to do with me. This has to do with, you could be watching me and go to a whole other congregation. This is for all the people that, are going to watch this video. There's 50 people in the room right now. There's probably going to be 2,000 views of the video. Okay, so all those people are going to be running into other congregational situations. And you got to ask yourself, how do you handle, this? What Korach, Dathan, and Aviram are doing. And they drew 250 other leaders into this. And Moses, I can only imagine Moses with his temper. He was just like, enough of you, enough of me. Yahweh, can we just be done with this craziness already? I can't do my job if I'm constantly having others kicking at me and trying to undermine everything I'm doing. That's what Moses is saying. It's hard enough to do when they're with me. But it's the leadership now that's coming against him. It's not just the people, and the people are following. It's the same thing that happened when they spied the land out, right? The 10 leaders came back and got all the people all upset. Nothing's changed. And you may say, well, I don't know what's wrong with those people. Well, we are those people if we're not careful. Go to the what are you thinking teaching. Because I wrote that teaching after reading this and noticing, I caught myself one day going, what was wrong with these people? What are they thinking? Yahweh just did this, this, and this. How could they possibly do this? And I know I've had those moments. We've all had them. So we shouldn't be judging like how dumb these people are. All that's happening is that they had Yahweh do stuff in their life and they didn't receive it fully enough to trust Him going further. We all do that. He's done things in your life and you still don't trust Him going further. And you want to jump and grab a hold of the reins and take charge of things in your own life or whatever it is. All right, so let's be careful with that. So I told you I wanted to get to the beginning of the chapter here. Okay? Look at what Moses says in, what do I have this, verse 8 through 11. Okay, so Moses says to Korah, is it little to you that Elohim of Israel has separated you from the congregation of Israel to bring you near to himself, to perform a service in the dwelling place, to stand before the congregation? In other words, you're already in the ministry. He says, and that he's brought you near to himself, you and your brothers, the sons of Levi, with you, yet you seek to be a Kohen. You know, you guys have inherited a mindset from Christianity of, well, we're all kings and priests now. Where's your crown? And I've been around some of your houses, they're not castles. I don't see any castles in Cleveland. Okay? I'm not picking on your house. There are no castles in Cleveland. I don't care the nicest house, no castle. We're not kings, we're not priests. We're supposed to have a destiny of being a kingdom of priests. What are priests? Those who serve Yahweh. So we're supposed to be a kingdom of those serving him. That's our destiny. That's not our present. Okay? So let's be careful with that. All right. Let's look at what else I had in here real quick. Oh, and in verse 18 it says, so each one took his fire holder and they put fire in it. So much they just told them, we're not coming. But they came anyway. There was something inside of them where they knew they better do what they were told. Stubborn. This is what we are. We're stubborn. All right, who's next? I already jumped from 16 to 18, so I guess anything's fair game at this point, but my apologies. All right, live stream.
Okay.
And I've got a whole page if you don't, so we're good.
We got some.
You got
here.
some, okay, because
Yeah,
I got a whole page here.
This one for me, when Michelle was talking about 26, you jump up there 25. He brought all the elders with him to when they went down to the tent. So even I guess was that be for a leader for witness from all the leaders?
Well, I mean, look, remember, Moses rose up and went to Dathan and Aviram, and the elders of Israel followed him. Now, remember, we're talking about the elders, but this also could include the fact that there were the 250. Okay, they were the elders in leadership. But Moses is going to the core of the problem. He's going up to Dathan and Aviram. Okay, with Korah. He says, move away from around the tents of Korah, Dathan, and Aviram. And so he's pointing out, these guys. So they moved away, verse 27. By the way, we actually had a moment like this at Beth Shalom about 6 years ago, where the men of Beth Shalom decided they were going to have a little kangaroo court for me, and had a little gathering. It was funny. It wasn't funny for everybody, but. Anyway, but it was one of those things. Here's the worst part. Half the men, if not all of them, were there because their wives made them do it. I'm not kidding. Okay? Let that, and they're all gone, by the way. Everybody that was there and involved, and actually even one person that didn't go that was invited is gone. So they're all gone. Okay? And I didn't throw any of them out. They just all left within a few weeks after this little kangaroo court thing. I don't know what they were hoping to accomplish. But just so you know, out of my part of it, after they spent, 20 minutes going around the circle blasting at me, I said, tell you what, guys, look, I just want us to fix this. Tell me what I need to do so that we could try to work on and it really had to do relational stuff. It had nothing to do with Torah, had nothing to do with doctrine, had nothing to do with any of that. Okay, it was some personality stuff. And they all said, yes, let's work on that and everything. And then they all quit within like a month. Okay, when it was my turn, anybody remember the movie The Principal? When Belushi goes, my turn. I felt like that, but I didn't do that, okay? Because I let them all go first and say all the stuff they wanted to say, and then it was my turn, I know I had so much I wanted to say, but I decided, let me just extend an olive branch as best I can, and say, look, I know you guys are frustrated for whatever reason it is or whatever. There was like a congregational blew out. I don't know what happened, but this is the kind of thing that happens. It does in every congregation at some point. These kind of things happen. Okay, Lynn. This was a long time ago. Okay. This is 6 years ago at least. 6, 7, yeah. No, this happened a long time ago. She said, was this the event that brought a lot of people to the ministry? I don't know. I mean, the ministry after that, we thought there might be like only 20 people left or less when we came back, and there were people still here. So, it's one of those things that Abba shakes the tree and sees who falls out, This is why we did the teaching, cling, cleave, hold fast. Because he's going to shake the tree and see what kind of nuts fall out. Oh, yeah. So you got to hold on tight. All right? But I'm just saying is that this is the kind of stuff that happens. All right? And you can see that play out. Look, if you're a Baptist, you know what I'm talking about. It just takes a bunch of the elders to get together and they throw the pastor out about every 3 or 4 years just because they feel like it. Listen, I was only told this by every Baptist I ever met. I don't, Okay? And so the pastor there has no authority. Okay? We used to rent the gym from a Baptist pastor, and he told me, he said how frustrating it was to have no authority because, they would just do whatever they wanted to do, wouldn't even tell him. He said the last straw, but then he was old enough to retire, so he just retired, but he said the last straw was one week he came there for Sunday service, and an elder stood up and announced a new program that was starting that week that he didn't even know about. I said, you're the pastor? And they announced a new program that was starting that week that you didn't know about. They wouldn't try that here. That wouldn't go well. Okay? But I said to him, I said, this is why we don't have that kind of a structure here where the elders can dictate to the leadership because they are the leadership. So the pastor is just a hireling. I said, why do you go do something else? Go join a different denomination that allows you to have some authority because you're a hireling. You're not the pastor. You're just here until they think that you're not doing what they want. And then they're going to get another person to come and do what they want. And so he retired. He knew that. He knew I was right. I'll tell you, that's a strange thing, is being a Messianic Torah observant Jew like me, sitting down every week, because when I paid the rent to the pastor, we always sat down and talked for like 2 hours, because he actually was counseling with me. Well, who's he going to talk to? The other people in his group that are causing him all the grief? So he ended up counseling with me. Again, nobody else to talk to. Here I am counseling a Baptist pastor, so it was kind of funny. It was probably at that time, good 15 years, 20 years older than me, and, But, who else is he going to talk to? And by the way, he handled the rebellion we had because the very first rebellion we had here, and you guys, most of you know who I'm talking about, tried to wreck the congregation and get everybody to leave, he actually called that pastor and tried to get him to throw me out of the building. But that pastor, he didn't know already had a relationship with me. So he told me, by the way, you got some rebellion on your ranks, you need to handle it. Or just know that it's there. I said, thank you, I appreciate that. But, could you imagine going to the point where you have to call up the place because literally that's how much you want to destroy a congregation? Try to get us booted out of the building. Now, praise Yah, I already had a relationship with the guy. So, he didn't look at it as anything. Look, this is a guy who'd already been in ministry for 50 years. He's like, I've seen this lots of times. He says, you just need to know you got this in your midst. I said, well, it's actually not in our midst anymore. You already left, but he's still actively kicking and screaming. I still have a page on his website just for me. Silliness. Okay. All right, so what's next?
Okay, from Tegan in 1633, what does going down to Sheol alive actually mean? Or is that just another way of saying they died?
No, in other words, okay, Sheol is talking about into the grave or into the ground. Okay, because remember, you got a lot of different words for, the grave or death and those kind of things. So normally you don't put people in the ground when they're still alive. Okay? So he's saying, look, if you go ahead and see people who are going to have the ground open up and swallow them alive and kill them that way, normally you put them in the ground after they die. So this was the unusualness. He says, look, if these people die as most people do, they die, then you bury them. But if they die in a different way, which is that they get buried and then they die, that's a slightly different way to do it. Normally we have to dig a hole for them. Nope, the ground's just going to open up and swallow them. Yahweh's going to bury them. Okay, so that answers that. Go ahead, next.
Okay, from Carrie, so it's question 16, verse 35. And a fire came down from Yahweh and consumed the 250 men who were offering incense. Does this mean fire came from the sky, or was he actually in the camp?
No, it would have come down from the sky. Just like you have, by the way, that's one of the more interesting verses. Left-hand page, middle of the column. I'll just find it for you. In give me a second to find it. Okay, so it makes it easy to find if you know you're only looking on the same spot on every page. Okay, chapter 19 of Genesis, and Yahweh rained down on verse 24 of chapter 19. Yahweh rained sulfur and fire on Sodom and Gomorrah from Yahweh out of the heavens. Okay? Okay, so in this case, you have the Yahweh that was hanging out talking to Abraham, and then the Father who was in the heavens. So you actually have the two mentioned here. This is in the Father and the Son teaching, and you can catch that. But that's just another one of those cool verses that shows you. So the fire is coming down from the heavens, okay, like the Sodom and Gomorrah situation. Okay, next question.
Okay, from Philip Mason, 1648. What can we glean from Aaron standing between the living and the dead? Is this a responsibility of leadership?
Yes. Okay. Between, and it's part of the responsibility, but also the duties or the position of the leadership is to help you transition from death to life. What have I always told you? All I care about is getting you from here to the kingdom. This is death. The only thing you have in this life is death to look for. That's it. But if you can have the tools necessary and use them and apply them and walk them and transition from what you are into what he is, then you are now moving from death to life. Okay? So the leadership has a role of helping you and guiding you how to move from death to life. Okay? Flesh is death. That from above, the incorruptible, is life. Okay, next question.
That's all I have for 16.
Okay, 17.
17, it's a general question about, so the Ten of Witness, is this different from the Ten of Meeting, or is the name unique to the Scriptures version?
Yeah, no, it's just the 10 of appointment, 10 of meeting, same thing.
That's all I have for 17.
Okay. Let me just add in here that one of the things that you need to understand in chapter 17, okay, and it talks about this in verse 10 through 12. Grumbling against leadership leads to death. Okay, grumbling brings death. Actually, not just against leadership. Grumbling in general is not going to get you in the kingdom. Grumbling brings death, okay? So here they were grumbling against the anointed appointed. Leadership is grumbling as well, okay? So the leadership is actually grumbling against the one who appointed them, which is not only Moses, but Yahweh. Yahweh appointed them to be in a position. And that's what Moses is like, look, he gave you a position. Why don't you appreciate it? Okay? So when you want to get that out of verses 10 through 12 there, Yahweh said to Moshe, bring Aaron's rod back before the witness to be kept as a sign against the rebels, so that you put an end to their grumblings against me, lest they die. When you grumble against anointed, appointed leadership, you're not grumbling against the leader, you're grumbling against the one who appointed him. You need to own that. I know you don't want to, because you'd like to be able to grumble against any leadership you want freely and without any ramifications or any kind of a, problem there. But this is the reality. My wife had to tell a lady that one time who just would not stop, and had to say to her, I said, look, if my husband is anointed and appointed, you may want to just stop this grumbling, because you could be really bringing some stuff on yourself. And that's just, this person just would not stop. Okay. Continue. You're still in chapter 17, or you're done? 18, go.
All right, 18, Philip Mason, 18:1. What is the crookedness against the set-apart place and priesthood?
Now he said to Aaron, you and your sons and your father's house with you are to bear the crookedness against the set-apart place, and you and your sons with you are to bear the crookedness against your priesthood. But bring with you your brothers of the tribe of Levi too, the tribe of your father, to join you and serve you while you and your sons are. And it's a responsibility, okay? He's saying, look, all the things that happen, it's like Moses, he said, I know I'm responsible when the people act foolishly. And so Aaron and his sons were going to be responsible for all things that had to do with the tabernacle. He said, but I'm going to give you the Levites to help you, but you are responsible for the things that happen here. So this just was sharing with them a clarity of their burden of responsibility. Okay?
Okay, from Kim Williams, 18, verse 15. What does it mean to ransom the firstborn of man?
Okay, this goes back to Pidyon Haben, and you go back to chapter 3 or chapter 4. It's on the right column of the right page. It's chapter 3, I think. Yep, 3, 45 to 48 or so. Okay? And when I tell you what part of the page is, if you're not using a 98 scriptures, you're not going to find it the way I'm telling you.
Okay, got a couple people on 18 verse 19 from Angela and Evangeline. Says, what's the covenant of salt?
Okay, I was wondering if somebody was going to finally get there. Okay, so the covenant of salt. All right, so in ancient times, when two people would come together to make a covenant, to make an agreement with each other, that they wanted to be sort of permanent. Not just a short-term thing, but a permanent type of an agreement. They would each bring a bag of salt with them, and then when they shook hands, so to speak, when they agreed on what they were doing, whatever you would think today, we shake hands on it or we sign a contract. Back then, what they did was they exchanged salt from each other's pouches with the very powerful metaphor of, and if you can't separate the salt, then this agreement can't be separated either. This agreement will stand as long as the salt stays mixed. And if, it would be really impossible if you had, think about salt. I mean, unless you have two different colors of salt, which, they didn't have that in these days. They just had salt. So they would have mixed them together, and that would be a permanence. We do this a lot of times at a wedding ceremony. We do the salt covenant where we have the bride and the groom mix their salt together into a container, symbolizing the permanence of the contract. Okay, so what they're saying is that in verse 19, it says that it is a covenant of salt forever before Yahweh with you and your seed with you. Okay, all the contributions of the set-apart gifts with the children of Israel present to Yahweh, I have given to you and your sons and daughters with you as a law forever. It is a covenant of salt forever before Yahweh. All right? This is where he just told them that their flesh is yours. And this is all talking about a particular offering, the firstborn of the cow, etc., and how you're going to do things. But this is the ransoming. But it's a covenant of salt. It's permanent. Now, permanent means for as long as there's a temple and Levites and there's other parameters here that have to be involved. Okay?
Oh, sorry. Another one on the Pidyon Habin is says, can a grandmother do this for the firstborn grandson?
Okay, this is probably a good opportunity to say something. I had a conversation with somebody Well, this happens almost every week, so I'll say what I always say. If this is you, I am saying it because it's you, but it's also because it's 15 other people, at least. All right? You need to understand the limitations on your responsibility. You're thinking Christian. What I mean by that is you're thinking that I have to go ahead and, baptize the child or do this to the child or they're doomed or whatever. The Catholics are especially bad with this. I remember I had an English teacher. He's a Pulitzer Prize winning teacher. Frank McCourt wrote Angela's Ashes. For those of you who might know who he is. But Frank McCourt would tell the story about his journey from Ireland to New York City. That's what the story of Angela's Ashes is. And, his mother would babysit for a lot of Jewish houses, and she would like take water and whatever, do something to the babies when they were asleep because she just thought, the baby belongs to the parents. Okay? It is if you have a grandson born and your child is not Torah observant, it's not your job to make sure that grandson gets circumcised. It's not your responsibility to do Pidyon Haben. It's not. Now, can you do Pidyon? You can do any of these things. I'm just telling you, it's not your responsibility to do these things. Okay? That child, while related to you, one layer removed, is not yours. I don't care if you think that you have authority because you're the grandmother. Let me tell you something. It's hard to argue with grandmothers. Okay? They all seem to think they have a lot of authority. But that child's not yours. And so whatever needs to be done to that child, your son or daughter, whoever the parents are, whichever one is your child, that's the person who has to make those decisions. It's not your decision to make. But you see, you're thinking out of Christianized-driven fear. Christianity taught you to be afraid. What were you supposed to be afraid of? That if you didn't do enough, people would die and not be saved and be doomed to hell. That's what they taught you to be afraid of. So you're out of fear, you want to do these things for your grandchild, who's not your child, is your grandchild. Okay? And so, yes, there's a relationship there, but it's almost insignificant when you consider that it's not the parent. Okay? Now, there are some of you grandparents that end up with the grandchild because the parents have such issues that somehow you end up adopting the kid. Now you have responsibility. Okay? But as long as there is no legal burden on you, you're going to have to stand back and just watch. Okay? It's not for you to be doing. Okay? What was the song we sang? Stand Still. Right? It's what we have to do. So I know that's not the answer you like to hear. I don't know who wrote the question, but this is something that comes up on enough of a basis. It's very hard for you to accept and watch your children do dumb things and then do dumb things with their children, etc. But it's not your place. I mean, you can talk to them, but you can't force them. You can't pressure them. You can't. It's just not your place. You got to understand the limitations of your place. All right? Just like when your child gets married. Well, that child was totally your responsibility till they got married. Now they've got a spouse. That responsibility changes completely. Especially if we're talking about a daughter who now has a husband. Well, I don't want to put it this way, but she's his problem now. But I don't mean that in a bad way. It's his responsibility. Okay? Now, I have had some parents, like at the wedding ceremony, go, good, she's your problem now. It's like, that wasn't nice. Shake you see the parents shake the groom's hand going, good luck. And then they go celebrate. Yay, I'm free. No, I'm kidding. All right. Okay? But we have to understand the limitations of our roles. That's really what's important. All right, go ahead, next.
That's all I have for questions on those. I have a few just general questions on things that you've talked about here.
Okay. Just again, a reminder, I guess we covered that all in talking about the tithes and offerings. Just remember in verse 21 again, it says, this is the purpose. I give the children of Levi all the tithes in Israel as an inheritance in return for their service. Okay? Because people say, well, you're not a Levite. We don't have Levites anymore, so we don't need to tithe. But we still need the people that are doing the service. It's just not in a tabernacle, in a tent anymore with animals being slaughtered. But it's for the service, which they are serving. The service of the tent of meeting was this service, but the Melchizedekian priesthood is now doing as it did with Abram, being the priest of the Most High, in that they are teaching the Torah. Okay, giving guidance in the walk of Torah. All right. So is that it for 17? Now into 18, we're good? All right, nothing else?
Just some general questions.
General questions? Well, I got like 5 minutes to 10. Do you think there's some that are safe?
Yeah, I can pick
By
out.
safe, I mean they won't take 30 minutes to answer.
Yeah, I can pick out a couple here.
Okay.
We only call them general questions because they're about the teaching, but they don't have chapter and verse.
Oh, okay. No, if they're about the teaching, go ahead.
Okay. From Selena Stevenson, says, did they have a quote-unquote, wow, what happened to you moment when Korach did this? I wonder why people do these things sometimes. How do we avoid breakdowns like this? I never want to be that far off the rails.
All right, I have an analogy I think you can relate to, okay? Because I think probably most of you feel this way. I'm assuming almost everybody has found themselves in this position. When you are lead-footed and get pulled over, whoever may have a moment of lead-footness and get pulled over, you knew the law. You knew there was a chance you would get pulled over. Now, are you learning the lesson at that moment? No. Are you regretting and thinking about your lead foot? No. You're thinking, how did I miss that person? Why wasn't I paying attention? Why was I distracted? And you're mad at them for pulling you over. Okay? That's what's happening here. That's the kind of thing. They're not getting it because rather than recognize, oh, this is because I broke the law, instead, they're thinking, no, this is because, and especially if there's another person in the car, well, see, you distracted me, otherwise I would have seen them and I would have slowed down. Nobody's had that conversation, right? See, our first thought is point the finger, point the blame at somebody else or something else. It's not pointed at ourselves and recognize, no, I was driving too fast and I broke the law and I was caught doing that. See, there was a saying that used to go around very popular, I think, throughout the ages, that it's not against the law until you get caught, or it's not illegal until you get caught. No, it's always illegal. Getting caught is just a problem. You get away with it until you get caught, you think you're fine. And so, even though Korach and them, this happened to them, there's going to be others that are going to think it won't happen to them. We'll do it different. We'll be a little smarter about it, and then this won't happen. Look, this stuff happened at Sinai, and a lot of people died. Okay? It happened when they decided to, have this rebellion. A lot of people died. This isn't the end of it, because we're going to have Pinchas in a little bit. This stupidity and foolishness is all the way till today. Because everybody thinks it's not going to happen to you. You're going to get away with it because all you're consumed with is the injustice that you are personally affronted with because you think you should have what you should have and somebody else shouldn't have what they have. And that emotion, what have I taught you over and over? Please pay attention to this. When you're in a strong emotion, positive or negative, you are not going to filter correctly the information of what's happening around you. You're not going to take information correctly. So if you are jealous, if you are thinking something's unfair, if you are envious, all these other things, then you are not thinking about the consequence to you. You're just thinking about the thing that you're all upset about. Well, that's just wrong. Well, maybe it is wrong, but is it blinding you now to everything else? just be really careful how you're thinking and how you're receiving the input of what's all the, the experiences around you, all the things that are happening around you. Are you filtering them and processing them correctly? Because if you're in a strong emotional place, you probably are not. Same thing when it's a good emotion. If you remember when you first discovered the opposite sex and you got all goo-goo-eyed. What is that? That whole idea of being goo-goo-eyed, right? You have this and you don't see straight. You don't think straight. And all of you who know people that are quote unquote in love, they're not thinking straight. They're not looking, they're not processing things right. So good emotions and bad emotions can have the same effect if the strong emotion is dominating your whole everything. If you allow that emotion to control you instead of be controlled a little bit, to have it under control. Nothing wrong with getting upset. Nothing wrong with being in love. Nothing wrong with any of those emotions, as long as they don't grab the steering wheel and start driving. Because they may take you right over a cliff or run you right into a wall. They're not good drivers. Now, they can make you feel a certain way while you're driving, but you got to drive. Okay? Don't let those emotions grab the wheel. All right, what else? What else you got?
I think you answered that. Brides of the harvest is right. Would Moshe's instructions to the congregation to move away from the three guys because something bad is about to happen is the same as Yah telling Lot, his wife and family, to leave Sodom and Gomorrah?
Yes, that would be similar.
Sam Davison, question from Rick. Is this the first occurrence of Lashon Hara?
Here? No. Oh, no. Come on, we just covered it when they went to spy the land. That whole thing was Lashon Hara.
From Jonathan Thompson, says, any connection with many are called, but few are chosen?
No, I wouldn't say that. This is more when you are called and choose that you accept that he puts you where he puts you. They had no problem understanding that there was a calling. I mean, that's what Moses said. Moses said, what's wrong with you? You've been called. You have a special role even. I mean, you get to do this stuff with the tabernacle, and you have a very special, responsibilities. Why is that not enough for you? You want to be a Kohen also? And so this is not a problem about being called. It's about accepting where you're placed within the calling. Okay? Look, I wrote in my notes here, and I think I should just read this because I think it's really important. It's not connected to a verse. It's connected to the whole Torah portion. What we're dealing with is challenges with knowing what is of Yah and what is of men. Okay? Yah placed them in the Kehathites, Korach was born a Kehathite, and he was given a role. But men decided, as a man, I don't like my role. I want this other role. See, but that's not a man thing. It's a Yah thing. Yah puts you where you go. See, that's where the tithing comes in too. The offerings and stuff. He says, this is of Yah, and then you guys want to whine and complain and how you do it. That's of men. Why do we struggle? Why do we have challenges with knowing what is of Yah and what's of men? But what happens is we get drawn into all of this rhetoric from men trying to tell you, and I'm telling you, it's all over the internet, attacks on tithing, attacks on leadership, attacks on structure, all that stuff. Why? Because man doesn't like it. Man does not like it. You know why? Because, and again, this is, I think, probably the most important thing that we've been struggling with for years now. Actually, it goes all the way back to this. When we look at, and I've said this to you when I did this survey going across Canada, when we asked the question of everybody, in the congregations I visited, I could do that here in every congregation. What's wrong with the body? And they'll give me a huge list of all the things that's wrong. But then the next question is, what is allowing it to be that way? Because people say, oh, people are this and they're that, and they're going off on their own thing, and they're doing all this other stuff, and they're backbiting, they're not loving, they're this. Whatever it is that you list, it's wrong with the body. What allows that to happen? A missing piece. What's missing? The structure to make them stop. See, when you watch children out of control, all you got to do is look at the family and see why it's out of control. Most of the crime in this country happens in families that do not have two parents that are together with those children. Okay, so you look at the structure. And some of them have parents that are doing all the same things that the children are doing or worse. And so they're learning from that. We have a structural problem. Family structure, congregational structure, the body. That's kind of the way Yahweh always had it. The family, the congregation, the whole body. With Yeshua as the head of the body. So this whole thing is being allowed to happen because they're fighting in structure. But see, there was an authority there that said, this doesn't work, you die. See, we don't have that today. We will. Yeshua's coming back with a rod of iron. He's going to crack some heads and say, you're going to do this structure or we're going to have a problem. Otherwise, why do you think he used the metaphor of the rod of iron? We know the idea of the rod, right? The rod means discipline. And so here, within the structure, like all children, there's a kicking against and trying to see how far you can push within the structure. How much you can get away with, how much you can undermine, how much you can usurp, or whatever you need to do. And then the hammer comes down on top of them. Or in this case, the ground opened up. Okay? But do you think of that when you go against leadership? Are you afraid of the ground opening up, metaphorically? Okay? We had people like that in the congregation a little while back, and then the ladies kept posting on Facebook, well, I don't know why all this terrible stuff's happening in my life all of a sudden. I don't know, because you're kicking against leadership and undermining all this other stuff. What a surprise, but she couldn't see it. I don't know, all of a sudden, my husband lost a job, and my kids are all sick, and my other thing happened, and the dog died, and just whatever. I don't know, what have you been doing? You bring this stuff on yourself. All right, so keep that in mind. So do we have those same challenges with understanding what belongs to him and what belongs to us and not overstepping the boundaries there? Leadership in the congregation doesn't belong to you, it belongs to him. He chooses it. You get to choose whether or not you come under it. Okay? See, that's something like a lot of the church system doesn't understand is they go ahead and choose their leadership and hire people in as hirelings and do whatever they want to do. Okay, you don't see Moses or any other leader taking a vote on what to do or getting a council together to say, what do you guys all think, and I'm going to do whatever you say. Yeah. All right? No, I would have given it a loud chuckle too. For those of you who couldn't hear that on the internet. Yeah, no. Okay, I'm sorry. No, she thought that was funny. I thought so too. I had somebody get in my face about things a while back. Same lady that was grumbling so much. But before she started all the grumbling, I said, I'm sorry, but because she said, well, I think if we asked the congregation, they wouldn't agree with this decision. I said, I don't remember that we ever decided to take votes here. I said, you know me for 20, she knew me almost 20 years. I said, we don't vote. It's not going to be a vote. She would have been wrong anyway, because the decision had to do with playing after service, had nothing to do with the service, and doing something we had no authority to be doing in that building according to the contract we had. But she was just venting, But the whole point was but we don't vote here. So you can go ask everybody you want what their opinion is. It's not going to change anything. Okay? But that was what they tried to do here. I'm going to get all the 250 leaders, and we're going to go and overwhelm Moses with how impressive we are, all 250 of us. And Yahweh said, I'm not impressed. Okay? I put Moses there. Me and Moses outnumbers any 250 every day of the week. Okay? You got to remember that. No weapon formed against me. But see, everybody likes to say that and quote that and use it as Christianese where you can apply it to everything, but you can't just apply it to everything. Because it goes back to if Yahweh is for us, who can be against us? That's where it kind of goes to. Well, Yahweh was from Moses, so they couldn't do anything about that. And same thing with Saul. Nobody was going to touch him until Yahweh decided to take him out. even if he'd gone crazy. David knew that. David said, I can't touch him. He's the appointed. Yahweh put him there. I can't take him out. But he's right there. You can go kill him. He's right there. He's asleep. You can go kill him. Nope. I didn't put him there. I'm not taking him out. And that's the lesson. Okay, anything else?
I got, just one back on 16. This person, they had some issues with their computer. Their comments or questions weren't posted. From Olivier and Janet Hoffman.
Oh, I was wondering where they've been hiding.
It just wouldn't be the same without asking at least one.
I was going to say, only one? Usually there's three. Okay, go ahead.
You answered some of the other ones already.
All right, there you go.
It says, Rabbi, in chapter 16, verse 30, this punishment was very different than the plagues, wondering if the severity of this was because of the absolute rebellion towards leadership. What can we learn from this?
Well, I mean, look, I think that you I just had a funny thought in my head about, look, they couldn't swallow their pride, so the ground swallowed them. Okay? Look, plague is different. A plague takes a little time and everything else. This was like more instantaneous, like just being zapped like Uzzah was zapped. Yahweh wanted to do something really, different. Moses, said to them, look, if these men die in a way that you just couldn't have imagined, and the ground just opened up and swallowed them up, look, Yahweh's choice. He decides how he wants to do it. But they were swallowed up by their emotions, by their anger, by their jealousies, by everything else. Okay? So you might want to think about that. If you can't swallow your pride, the ground might just swallow you up. Because this is all pride right here. Well, who do you think you are, Moses? We're all anointed. We're all appointed. We were all at Sinai. We all heard his voice. Yeah, and you guys, needed a change of clothing afterwards, and you came to me. I'm just saying. You may think that's inappropriate, but I mean, that's, don't be all saying that we're all the same. I've sat there face to face, Moses says. I went up on the mountain. I came down glowing like, with that anointed light. I said, and you heard his voice, and all of you panicked and collapsed on that. Okay? You don't have what it takes. Doesn't make me better than you in all areas of life, but you just don't have this. Moses had what was necessary for that. To be that man leading that group of people out of that place. And I'm so glad it wasn't me. You want to deal with, it's hard enough to deal with 100 or 20 or whatever, but to deal with 2 to 3 million? No wonder he said to Yahweh, please just kill me. Put me out of my misery. All right, that's it? That's it. All right, that'll work. Okay, so why don't we have you, Mr. Rob, since you got the microphone, go ahead and close us in prayer. If you guys all want to stand up, you can. Rob's going to close us out.
Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for this, giving us this opportunity to come together to get into your word through our teacher, our anointed, appointed, Rabbi Steve. Father, just watch over each and every one as we travel back to our homes and just watch over us for the rest of this week until we all come back together for Shabbat. In Yeshua's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right. If those who want to be on camera can come up here and we can do our little wave goodbye thing. Stephen, you can come up here and advertise Sonic. It's okay. It's all right. It's a hard-working man.
No, it's okay.
They're not paying you enough. He's hiding the advertisement, and they said he's not paying him enough for that. All right. Shh. Okay, so we're going to go ahead on 3. We're going to tell everybody to have a Laila Tov, a good night. Shavua Tov, have a good week. And then we're going to tell them we love them. Ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Laila Tov!